This is the Variety Sports Network, created for the fans, by the fans. Now to your host of tonight's show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dugout Mug Studios. This is the 7th inning stretch.
And we're back, and we got a classic guest here with us. We got Josh
I missed
Lewis.
it. I missed that.
Baseball. Thinking. I haven't said that in a while. Josh Lewis, it's good to have you tonight on. We got Josh Edwards, the usual co-host with me. I'm Daren, Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports, 7th inning stretch. We're back after a 2-week absence. And gentlemen, why wouldn't we be back? We got Hall of Fame stuff to complain about. I got Hall of Fame, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's always an interesting time of the year. People questioning, Daren, why do you care so much? I care, people, and I'm going to explain tonight why I care. And we're all going to care tonight. Hall of Fame. We'll get into that. We'll also touch on maybe a little bit of next year's class as well. A closer going for a lot of money, high-priced closers working out. And, of course, I'll get these guys with a little MLB trivia out there. Logan Stone, we'd be remiss. A little salute out to you. Hope you're feeling a little bit better, my friend. Get that voice ready. We need you. Me and Josh need you for that breaking news when Snell goes. Or wait, tweet us like 20 minutes ago about David Robertson. He's all over it for us. So, Logan, big shout out there. Variety Sports Network. Josh Lewis, let's start with you, our guest tonight. How you doing, my friend?
I am good. I am even better. Speaking of breaking news, that Jock Peterson signed with the Diamondbacks and did not re-sign with the Giants, so I'm happy about that.
Right there. We got it right there. Josh Edwards, he's on 5 seconds. He's already breaking news.
Hey, I told you he was going to make me look bad
tonight. Every time with it. All right, gentlemen, let's get right into it. Let's get to where Lewis, it's funny you hit me up. Me and Edwards have been thinking about your name and some of these things that especially have been coming up in the offseason. We've mentioned you a few times. Hall of Fame comes up right away. I think we've done a few shows last year. I'm going to start with the Hall of Fame because for me it matters. Like, it really does. Now, the reason it's lost some of its luster is I think some of these guys have, because of the roids guys, they've maybe got in earlier than maybe I'm used to, and that's what's kind of messing with me, I feel, a little bit with some of this stuff. So you guys are going to counsel me through this tonight a little bit as I get my Hall of Fame thoughts off my chest. Before I go on Beltre, Mauer, Helton, let's start with you, Edwards. What was your thoughts on the Hall of Fame? Those three guys getting in, was there any complaints? I have it down there. Where did the voters go right, wrong? Your initial thoughts, and we'll go to Lewis there.
Well, Billy Wagner was on my list of complaints. You already hit him. Yeah, 1-year deal options. Can you get us the amount, Logan? Because I couldn't find that. But my other one is, how is Andrew Jones not make it again?
Right.
What is going on?
I'm with you.
Like, what else do they want from the guy? 10 gold gloves? I mean, 400 plus home runs? 500 plus home runs? 400 plus home runs? I can't remember. It's one of the bigger numbers. I mean, the dude's all over the charts, up and down. I don't know how he doesn't get in with other guys who have already made it in. I don't understand. He's one of the greatest defensive center fielders. He's probably the greatest defensive center fielder of that generation of players.
Oh, 100%.
Lewis, real quick here on that. I want to get that comment in here real quick about this, and I'll send it over to you. Respond to Josh on that. I'm not convinced Beltre. I'll get into that in a second. I think Helton was the most deserved. I know you were a big fan of Helton. What do you think about Jones? Josh's comment there on Andrew Jones not getting in.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Like, if you think, especially like our age, right? Like, if you think one of the kind of barometers I use for the Hall of Fame is like, was this player the most dominant at his position? And you have to say yes for Andrew Jones, like for a decade. Like, there's some longevity factor to the Hall of Fame as well. I get that. But for more than a decade, he was the most dominant center fielder. And like, to me, it just boils down to that. Like, you can get into all the statistics. You can pretty much make a statistical analysis for anybody to get into the Hall of Fame. So I don't put too much like an overbearance on statistics for the Hall of Fame, but that's one of my barometers was this guy, would you just look at this guy and instantly know, like, the eye test is he a Hall of Famer? Was he the most dominant at his position for more than a decade? Then absolutely yes. And no. I'm I was upset about Sheffield too. I'll give you that one. Sheffield, I believe, should be in as well. Jones should be in. I was one of the people that was like, we should have like 7 guys elected this year. Like it should have been a much bigger class. We should have set a record for how many guys got in. But that being said, with how terrible the Hall of Fame has been over the last few years, and how frustrating it's been over the last few years, I was happy with how it kind of turned out.
I think that this part too was the most kind of interesting to me. I'm putting Sheffield and Jones in over Beltre and Maurer. I guess for me, I Beltre to me like was not. I guess I'm to the first ballot thing. Maybe that's what it is. Like Beltre's a Hall of Famer, but like when I watched him, kind of the way you're saying Andrew Jones, I think Beltre was a little better than Jones, but still like I didn't think like he passed the eye test as like a all-time great. And I guess that's where like I'm looking at it too old school in a way, like where his numbers just should be he's in the Hall of Fame, so he's in the Hall of Fame. Doesn't matter when he gets in, but then. You look at Maurer getting in on first-time Hall of Fame. It's like if you look at his numbers, really, I mean, he had this unreal 3-year stretch, but I don't think he had more than 20 home runs in that 1 year. And I'm not that saying like he's not a Hall of Fame player, but like I guess maybe the Royds guys set this up where they're not getting in to where now these guys are now jumping onto the ballot as first-timers, and it's kind of throwing it off a little bit to where my eyes as a child during the Royd era has made this like where it makes no sense. I'm like, how in the world is Gary Sheffield not a Hall? That guy when I watched him play was a bad man. He's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Man, and that's the biggest one for me is Beltre. When I watched him, it's weird. His career didn't take off. He had that one great year in LA, then sucked for 4 in Seattle, went to Boston, changed his life the next 7 years. And so like that's the Beltre issue I have. And so like I'm just like, how does Sheffield not get it? You guys say Jones. For me, it's Sheffield. I just don't understand how he's not Hall of Fame. So I don't know.
Yeah, Sheffield's definitely in the same conversation. I would put Sheffield in there. Billy Wagner's another one. Like those kind of dominant guys. I literally for this year, I kind of figured Joe Mauer would benefit kind of what you're talking about. Like he kind of benefits from the class that he's in. Yeah. In terms of eligibility and whatnot. And so I thought he would get in just based on that. I was pretty shocked that Sheffield didn't get in on his last. These guys that are on their last couple years that are borderline guys tend to get in because everybody's like, oh, it's their last year. Let's get him in, kind of like, let's vote for him kind of thing. And so I was kind of surprised that Sheffield didn't get in, especially with all the, for lack of a better term, publicity he's been doing the last few weeks. He's been everywhere.
It's the Royds thing, right? With him, like that's what it like. He was in the whatever the thing that went to the government, all that good stuff. I don't know, Edwards. That was one of my. I think I'm being a little harsh on Beltre. I look at his stats, and the more I think about it, I'm like, okay, he's a Hall of Fame. I'm just like, I got to relax on the first ballot. I think with him because like I watched it, I'm like. I don't know. I just didn't see first like all time great when I'm watching Beltre. I guess so. I don't know. I guess that's my thing.
I'm in a very similar position as you on that. Like, yeah, he has the Hall of Fame numbers. He falls into the category, but he's not a guy that I'm like, oh yeah, that dude's lock in Hall of Fame. I don't know. He just growing up, he was not a player that. I guess I paid enough attention to or was impressed by or his stats impressed me, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be there, but it's just, it's the Hall of very good anymore. The Hall of Fame is not a big deal for me anymore. It sucks.
Well, see that, and for me, I guess as a guy that does a show with you every week, a show guy that does a baseball show with you, like, I don't know. I wish it mattered more a little bit at times. And I wish the baseball, like, I don't want it to be like the NBA where you're letting everybody and everybody, but I also want it to be where it should matter a little bit. And I think the MLB writers have always had way too much power in this whole entire say. I feel like they've had way too much say in this. And the fact that Pudge is in, the fact that Piazza, I don't know, like I'm just saying like there's just Ortiz gets in on it. I just feel like all those guys are great players. We need to be putting in the best players. Like that's what the Hall of Fame is. It's a museum. And I think, Lewis, for me and you, that's still the attraction in that sense of like there's this mystique to it as I have like these guys up on the screen. I mean, they're on all time. They're in Cooperstown now. I mean, these guys are now the elite of the elite. And I know, let's spend a little time on Helton now for a second. I know you were happy about him getting in.
I was so excited. Like I was literally like I turned on the announcement and I was watching it with 4 of my boys, and I was basically like, as soon as Josh Rawitz, sorry, excuse me, came up there to make the announcement, I'm like, everybody shut up. I want to see I want to see if Helton gets in, because that's my boy, man. Like I grew up loving Todd Helton. He was one of the reasons why I loved playing first base, which was not my natural position. I just liked playing it because Helton was there. And so it just, I was super excited for him to also kind of bust the whole mystique around Coors Field, right? Like we shouldn't hold it against players that played at Coors Field. I was talking with a buddy of mine this week, and it's like, we don't use the opposite effect of Coors Field, right? Like we don't say, oh, that pitcher had a 4.2 ERA, but he pitched at Coors Field, so he's a Hall of Famer. Like we don't use the opposite argument. Like why?
He threw a 3-hitter. That's a no-hitter. Yeah.
Like why are we doing this? Like why are we holding it against Helton? So Helton's one of those guys where, like, growing up and watching him and like, dude, that is a Hall of Famer. Like he passes the eye test. He was phenomenal, Gold Glove caliber first baseman, just a tremendous hitter in terms of average when average mattered, and like just such a great player, such a great dude too. Like just went about his business, was a kind guy, like just was one of the genuine good dudes of baseball. Like I loved
quarterback at Tennessee.
What's that?
Quarterback at Tennessee, even.
Quarterback at Tennessee. Beat out Peyton Manning. Come on. So I was super excited for him. I honestly, as soon as they announced him, I didn't care what else happened. Like I was so in on Helton that I'm like, as soon as they announced Helton, I'm like, yeah, Beltre's going to get in, whatever. I don't care. Like he wasn't like a favorite player of mine or anything. So it's like, he'll get in, he's got the numbers, whatever. And then as soon as they said Helton, I'm like, yes, I'm excited. I'm jumping up and down. I was yelling and all that sort of stuff. And Larry Walker walks out and can run.
You have a good point there.
See, Walker though had it going for him that he didn't play his entire career in Coors.
And Walker's he should have been an automatic Hall of Famer. To your point on Helton a little bit, is he was getting, I think when we talked last year, because he didn't get in, we were like, this is the Coors effect. Like this is part of that deal with him. Like you're right. Like when we watched him play, this guy's, he's unreal. Like, I said, I got some of the highlights going in the background with him, but like, the guy just locked in. I remember as a guy when he came to the Bay Area, right? Like the games would be on TV here locally before I could get MLB TV back then. Like it was a big deal to see him hit. Like Kruko and those guys would get excited for him, even like talking about them. So you knew he's a good hitter, and the fact that he's able to even make a World Series with that team. And I'll get the play up here in a second after I let Edwards go on him. But like just as he was very. The thing I think people forget about him, because in baseball it can get lost very easily on TV, is how smart he was. Like, what I mean? Like he really understood the game at like a very in-depth level, which helped him get to the Hall of Fame. So go ahead, Lewis. I'm going to get a little special play here on the screen here as you talk about him for a second.
Lewis or Edwards?
Edwards, I mean, sorry.
There you go.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, Helton, I went off pretty hard last year in our show when Helton didn't get in, and to see him get in is good. I think all around, a lot to what Josh said about breaking the Coors effect, and how that was always an excuse for guys not getting in from Colorado, and he was one of the greats out there. I mean, I think he's at times overshadowed because he played in Colorado and he never got to have the major team accolades that other guys have gotten with the World Series and the pennants and everything else.
Showed the exact play that Logan didn't want you to show.
Sorry, Matt Carpenter back at the Cardinals uni there, Logan, right there for it.
Way back in the day. How long?
That's the play. Look, that's one of my favorite.
Didn't Beltre.
This is a very smart play there by the man. Just an unreal first baseman there. Josh, just one of the best. He killed it.
I mean,
when Tony Gwynn says you're going to be a Hall of Famer in your second week in the big leagues, like you're probably going to be pretty good.
Oh, I know. He was an amazing hitter. Like, and the fact that he even raked like that in Colorado was just impressive too. Like he was just He was one of the better players. I mean, every time you were drafting him in fantasy baseball top 3, there's no doubt with that. He was a lock. He's back. Oh, yeah, the guy that batting 340, 30 home runs. Yeah, I'll take that guy right off the bat there. And playing in Colorado. And then even when he was on the road, it's not like he was a terrible hitter by any means.
No.
So
yeah, his splits aren't bad.
No. All right. Let's get to the guy that was a little controversial. That's Joe Mauer a little bit. Now, I think controversial is more in terms of the longevity of his career, which is fair. Like I said, he only had one season, I believe, where he had 20 home runs. And it was a monster season in 2009. Like, that's as good a season as you can have as an MLB player as a catcher, like the way he had. I think he led in slugging, on base. I mean, like every category, like other than like home runs and RBI, but like just a beast on every level. But the longevity of the career does kind of make me think about the Hall of Fame stuff a little bit and what we've done in the future. And maybe this is more of a positional thing. And he didn't play that position all that long. He did play it for a while, but he didn't play it all that long. Makes me think Posey's maybe a 100% in. Like he might be.
Posey's got to be a lock if Mauer.
Yeah, I mean that's as lock as it gets. It's probably he might not get. That's what I'm saying. He might get all the votes now after I see something like that because Mauer didn't win 3 World Series either. So, what you got? What do you think of Mauer there, Josh Lewis? What do you think of there, Mauer getting in there?
So this was a heart pick for me. Like I just liked Mauer, so like I was happy for him. Like I don't. If I was looking at it objectively, though, I'd be like, all right, like let me use that same barometer that I used earlier. Like, does he pass the like? Was he one of the most dominant players at his position for a significant part of a decade? Yeah. And I don't put too much stock in the home runs just because that's not a value stat for me for catchers. And so, I mean, you look at guys like Yachty, you look at guys like Posey, like none of them hit a lot of home runs. Like Piazza's like the exception, right? Like there's not many catchers that hit a lot of home runs. So, Salvi Perez, maybe a little bit now, but, like it's not a position that's based on power. Like, can you handle the pitching staff? Can you be durable? Can you be there behind the plate almost every day? Can you, I like those kind of things. But then to add
first ballot, though, that's the thing.
Well, yeah. And so you add like the batting stuff on top of it in terms of like, if you're ranking catchers, I'm like, okay, if he got in, then like Posey and Yachty got to be locks because I would put them ahead of him in terms of like dominant catchers. But like he was just a player that I liked. And so like, I'm happy for him. I do think that he, again, if we get away from the statistical categories, cause like I said, like you can kind of tweak the statistics to make them say whatever you want. And so I think there are guys out there that have written a lot more words than I have on why Mauer should get in terms of the numbers, but I'm with you. He does kind of fall in that borderline category. And I do think that he should have gotten in at some point. I just think that there's, a lot of people, yourself included, like you already said, put sort of a premium on that first ballot kind of annotation. And so if we're using that as like a category, then is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? Probably not.
Do you think Lewis, hold on for just a second. Do you like he's one of the guys where I'm like, okay, is he automatic though? Like I know like this season tells me he was a stud at every level. But there's got like we just said Sheffield's not, like again, so it's Roy's Basin. We just said these guys aren't in. We said Andrew Jones is in it. Andrew Jones had stats like that in one year. And so I guess that's the part for me that always boggles my mind. It's like, okay, the voters now thinking position and I don't know. I don't.
Position carries a lot of weight for catcher, not as much for center fielder. We've found out, but but for catcher, it does carry a lot of weight because it is a completely more demanding position than any other position. And I will say this, like I don't have the numbers in front of me for like comparison notes or anything. I didn't get that deep into the research on it, but I will say this for Mauer. Was there anybody better during his career at catcher? There could be an argument said for no. No. So was he the best catcher of his era? Yeah. I mean, like, unless people can mention other names, because like I said, I didn't go into all the numbers and whatnot, but and he overlapped with some guys like Posey, like Yachty, like Posada is another one that's kind of controversial right now because Mauer got in now. But were there any catchers during his time better than him? You'd be hard pressed to make that argument.
No, I mean, you're looking in the National League then to compete with him on the best some of the best catchers, probably like Jorge Posada was at his past his prime there. You know, Salvador Perez was coming in, and you know, a few years later you had other guys, but Mauer's better than him. I like I said, he's a Hall of Famer. Like I said, we're just kind of more debating, is he a first time Hall? And I think that has to be discussed because that's part of the baseball history. Like, as my kids, if they become a baseball fan, for me it mattered a little bit more for this stuff. Like, as they were and like I said, I will always say this: the roids thing threw it off. Go ahead, Liz.
100%. No, for sure. So on that point that you're just making on the first ballot, it's interesting that you say, like, with you and your kids. So I use a different number with my kids because we're all kind of numbers nerds a little bit in my house. And so we sit at home and keep score during games. Like, that gives you a glimpse into our life.
I'm still waiting on my scorecard, by the way.
Oh, I gotta send it to you. It's done. It's out.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's live. Like, people can go buy it, download it, all that sort of stuff. So, shameless plug there.
Not
so
shameless.
what we do.
On purpose.
So one of the numbers that we like the voting percentage. We love that number. Like, that is a big deal number to us. Like, we were looking, my son and I were looking at like some Ken Griffey Jr. cards that I have and that have given to him and stuff like that. And so we were having a conversation about Ken Griffey Jr. and he was talking about how great he is. My son's 11, sorry, he's 11. And he's like, oh, he's such a great player, blah, blah, blah. Never saw him play, but he's like, how did he not get 100% of the vote, Dad? Like, how did he not get 100%? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. And so, like, but that's a number that we look at. And so, looking at Joe Mauer's number, that's a little bit lower. Todd Helton, who's a little bit lower. Adrian Beltre had a really high one. Like, so looking at that number, I actually put more weight, more stock kind of in that number than the whole like first ballot thing.
I agree. I think you make some valid points with that too. And I think the Hall of Fame, and I think that's what makes it fun too for me, is that it is debatable. Like, I know, like, that is part of it for me that I enjoy. I'm a baseball nerd in a way. Like, I looked at box scores as a young kid. Like, that stuff mattered to me. Like, so I enjoy all this little discussions on things. Like, oh, I thought this player was better. Maybe I'm more of a West Coast guy. I got to see this guy play more and more when I was a kid. Like, that stuff does matter. And like Beltre, for me, he was the most controversial guy to me because I'm just going to be honest. Like, his eye test didn't tell me he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, at the end of the day, is he a Hall of Famer? Yes. I just didn't think of him as one of the 12 guys that him and David Ortiz is the best of the best. Like, and that matters to me a little bit. So I guess maybe I'm wrong in that. Now, to Beltre's point, I got to give him credit in terms of the longevity of his career and the fact that he got better his last 8 years. Like, that, to me, stands out to him more than anything else. Is like, and he had a lot of humor to him. And so I enjoyed that part of it. Him and Andrews would have some fun at shortstop. He would do the knee there, as you see there. What was it? The guys would always touch his head. That would make him freak out a little bit. That was always kind of fun. And
him and Miggy's antics were always great.
Remember him getting ejected from movie? Like, it was like they were down like 18-6, and he moved the batting. Like, the umpire's like, no, you got to get back because he was warming. He was
moved the whole batting circle. Yeah,
he was in the on deck
dragged
circle.
It over.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I'll take that on deck circle and move it closer to where I was. And the guy's like, all right, get out of here. That's like one of my favorite moments there too. So I got his highlights up on the screen. It's just kind of fun. I felt like this deserved a half an hour Josh Edwards of our time talking Hall of Fame. I know, like you said, maybe it doesn't mean as much, but like for me, at the end of the day, though, Josh, like, these guys are put in a certain class, other guys won't be. So I guess it does matter a little bit.
I mean, it definitely matters. It just doesn't feel like it carries the same weight as it did when we were kids. It doesn't feel like it's always the elite of the elite anymore. I think there's been years where there shouldn't have been anybody that's gone in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's just across the board, the standards have been lowered a little bit. And it's just easier nowadays than it was when we were kids and the expectation we saw growing up. I guess that's what it is for me. And I'm just the old fart saying, "Get off my lawn." I guess
You see,
that's
like
the guy
Mauer get
I
in,
am.
right? Wouldn't you be like Craig Biggio's a first-time Hall of Famer?
Posey should be first ballot. Molina should be first ballot. Somehow Jim Edmonds should get in now.
Say it, Posey. You can say it.
I said Posey before I said Yachty.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he did. He's good.
Because Posey's going to get to go in first because his career was half as long because he wasn't strong enough to play a full man's career behind the plate. Why Posey doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame until after Yachty gets in. But
like me with Beltre.
That's for another day. No, I mean it just seems watered down to me, I guess. And it bothers me I mean, just throw the roids in there, make it one portion of. I've never been there. I want to go. I still have never gotten to go to the Hall of Fame, but make it one area of the whatever, however it's set up, and call it the steroids era, and put the whole history out there. Put that it saved baseball, because the home run race between McGwire and Sosa saved baseball. Steroid era saved baseball. It's important. Put the guys in there, but that means all of them. I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
Put them all in there. But that's their era. That's what they're going to be known for. Yes, they did amazing, crazy things. They were like the gods of baseball. Posey.
How many MVPs did Yachty get?
Zeros, I remember. Zeros.
Yes, it was zero.
Posey was definitely the better player. Yachty was the better. He had the longer career, and to that he does deserve credit. I don't take that away.
Yachty was the better catcher. Posey was the better athlete.
Okay, who would you rather have, Mauer, Posey, or Yachty?
Oh, Yachty. Posey.
I'll take the defense.
So Mauer, that'd be hilarious to me if Yachty and Posey don't get in first time. Mauer does, and both of us didn't say Mauer was the guy we'd want first. That's all I'm saying, people, with this stuff. And so that's all I'm saying.
So to Josh's point about the kind of the old man lawn conversation there, like I think it's valid. Like I'm going to take this kind of a level deeper here that we won't super get into because it's not that kind of show. Like, but just the psychology of it, like just the psychology of it. Like, okay, like I do think that we are in a unique period for our age, especially, that we're like, we are in that transition of, okay, we had all the steroids guys. Everybody's kind of made their ruling of what those guys were, or going to be, whatever. And now we've got this kind of window of guys that were really, really good and that we really, really liked and grew up loving. Andrew Jones, Joe Mauer, like these guys. And then we're going to have kind of the next generation of, I do think we're in a transition period, because now we're going to have the next generation is going to be like the Trouts and the guys like that are going to be like, 100% easy, no conversation about it. I think we are going to get back to that level of these guys are shoo-ins. I just think we're in this weird little window of between eras of like different analytics era, different, like all different athleticism, different, a lot of things, different rules now. Like, I think we're in this transition period where guys like Mauer, Helton, Posey, Yachty, like these guys that maybe weren't like the dominant best of the best ever, like in the history of the game, but they were good enough to get in the Hall of Fame for their era.
I think that's a really good point. That the way you said it is perfectly too, because it's a transition. That's what Josh, I think, to Edward's point, is like, sometimes don't vote people in. Like, that could be part of it too. Is like, if there's like, sometimes they don't deserve to go. My guy, that's my sport out there. I love you, appreciate out there, always supporting the show out here. Since Mauer, I'm telling you, as soon as Mauer get in, that was the first name I looked up, because I've said it's Posada. I looked at their stats. I'm like, Posada played a lot longer. Posada didn't have the year. That's the difference. He never had quite that 2-year
never
run.
Had a standout highlight.
But he also got third in MVP voting one year. He did have good years, and he did win a lot of world. I just say that's the stuff for him. When he gets first ballot, I look at Posada's stats and I go, his stats are right there. He just didn't hit for the average, but the power numbers are there too. So that's the fun thing about this with the Hall of Fame. So I don't know, like,
but the Hall of Fame has become all offense, it feels like.
It does.
That's my problem with it. Baseball is not just about hitting the ball.
I think
and
Beltre got
the
it
way-
for those 5 Gold Gloves, though.
I mean, Gold Gloves matter.
They should.
Being the best player in your position to play the position is important. And this is what bothers me about baseball now. Like, I still love the game, but I loved it more when I was a kid because the entire game counted. Now it's just who can hit the ball the furthest, who's got the best exit velo, and who's hitting the best angle. Like, let's just make a home run derby be every game, and that just is what it is.
It definitely needs to change in terms of that. Like, I think that baseball is recognizing some of those things that happened. Posada he was annoying. Every time he was up, I was a little worried about that.
Yeah,
for sure. I was always worried about him. All right, I want to keep the show moving here, though, as we kind of keep it going. I want to look ahead real quick to the 2005, some of the new candidates that will be coming up as I get them on the screen here. You got Ichiro's probably going to be the one that's going to be automatic there. Some of the interesting names, Sabathia, he'll be also kind of on the list. Pedroia, I don't see him getting in the first year. Felix Hernandez stands out to me. Ian Kinsler. You have some funny names that will probably be off the ballot in the first day. Russell Martin. Adam Jones, good player, but I don't think, obviously not a Hall of Famer. The Milkman, Melky Cabrera, Ben Zobrist, and two guys that were, and you said, dominated the sport. Like, I mean, maybe a 4 year run, maybe. Hanley Ramirez and Troy Tulowitzki. Two guys you would have thought automatic Hall of Famers. They won't get in. They don't deserve to get in either. But my point is, you think about that with these certain guys for short period of times. That's what I think of when I look at this Hall of Fame list. I think Ichiro's automatic. Sabathia should get in. The rest of them, I feel like Felix, he's the only one because I'm just like, this guy's a bad man. But he didn't play that long. But then you look at Mauer getting in, and you're like, what's the deal? Like, this guy should get in too. So, I don't know. Any thoughts, Josh Lewis, looking ahead to that class real quick?
If Ichiro doesn't get 100% of the vote, something is dreadfully wrong. Like that's my biggest thing from this list. Like there's not anybody on this list where I'm like, yep, surefire Hall of Famer, cool. Like if Ichiro does not get 100% of the vote, like he won't. I know he won't, but it's so wrong with the voting. Like he should be in. The amount that he did, just from the fact that he had already been in pro ball for so long before he got here is ridiculous. Yeah. Like he's one of the most dominant, one of the best right fielders ever, not just of his era, ever one of the best outfielders. And so if he doesn't get in with, okay, I'll step back. If he doesn't get in without at least like 98, then something's wrong.
I don't like to use much language on this podcast, as Josh said, so I won't. as a young man, when he came in at 2001, gosh, he was a B to get out. That's all I'm gonna say. Every time he came up, I was like, this guy is the biggest B in the world. Like and he's just like, if there's a guy on second base, I'm expecting him to get a hit to right between third and second or wherever the heck that stupid hole is, and throwing out Terrence Long at third base.
I will say on that list too, and to the comments that are popping in, Dustin Pedroia was one of my favorite players, even though I hated the Red Sox. Like, hated the Red Sox. And so I hated the Yankees too. So don't be coming at me like I'm a Yankees fan. So but hated the Red Sox, loved Dustin Pedroia because he was the kind of guy that played the game how I did. And so he was a guy that was a little undersized, just swung from his freaking cleats to try and get base hits. Like I never saw anybody swing so hard as Dustin Pedroia did to make up for every single inch of himself. And Dustin Pedroia, one of my absolute favorite players, and the definition of grit, not a Hall of Famer. Like he doesn't have the numbers. He wasn't dominant. He wasn't like, he was fun to watch. Like,
he's kind of in that Jeff Kent category, it feels like. Even though I think Kent should get in, I feel like
I think Kent should get in too. But
I feel like that's where he's going to fall, like kind of that Kent area where he's like Kent won an MVP, and I think he'll fall a little bit below that a little bit.
I compare him more to like Jim Edmonds. Like he kind of has that, like he's got the good defense. He's got like kind of a good well-rounded player. He's got some pop here and there. Obviously, different positions between second and center field, but like. Just kind of that, just really, really good player and somebody that you would want on your team in a heartbeat.
He's not a Hall of Famer for me. Edwards, the Hall of Famer for you, Pedroia? No. Yeah, I'm with you on that. The other one that kind of Sabathia, I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I think he should get in. It's funny to me, both those guys, Pedroia from Woodland, California, which is like an hour and a half from here. Obviously, Sabathia from Oakland, as a lot of people know. So, in the area, I always wish both those guys played for the Las Vegas A's. All right, Josh, I said it. All right, there you go. So you should be happy now. I said it, Lewis. I said it. Las Vegas A's. You get your damn Tropicana field there, Lewis. All right, all right. Logan gets it. You look at this list and you see how injury really. That's what I mean. Like Hernandez to me, eye test. Hall of Famer. Like it's almost like the Lincecum effect with him. It's like these guys pass the eye test, but they're not going to get in because of injuries. I feel like, but they both to me could easily be Hall of Famers.
Such a severe drop off, like for Felix, for Lincecum, like those kind of guys, like they were so dominant, and then just because they're almost like they hurt themselves in terms of they were so dominant and so lights out that like the severe drop off that they had, it's like I would take this guy as a number 4 starter any day of the week, but that's not what we're used to seeing from those guys, and so like I think the drop off at the end of their careers hurt them.
And I think the thing too, also, as you look at these guys, is just like it's gonna be fat. Like for me, like as these names go on, I get older, the names get younger. So we'll see what happens with these guys. Like Ian Kinsler's now on the list. Like Ian Kinsler. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to see some of this stuff. Like, and he was a beast too, but I don't think he's quite Hall of Famer. If Utley doesn't get in, Kinsler doesn't get in either. So like that's kind of how I feel about it. All right, I want to keep it moving here, guys. We're Josh Hader signed with the Astros. Susie, shout out to you, Susie, out there. Had an interview, a great interview with her, with Jessica, does the A's post sideline stuff. Shout out.
I saw that one.
She might not be Variety Sports anymore, but Susie came out with us during the World Series. Always like the stuff. She's always working hard there, Bourbon and Baseball. So always like to shout her out when I can. So be sure to check that interview out. Really good stuff there. Closer, Josh Hader. She was happy about that. Signs with the Astros, 5 years, $95 million for a guy that will throw an inning. Son, be left-handed. Does this give the Astros the best bullpen? I got some of the names below, and then what do you think of this, Lewis? Does this give them that best bullpen and just giving the Hader 5 years, $95 million?
Short answer without any pitches being thrown, yes. Like probably like that is a pretty awesome bullpen until Hader blows out his arm next year. Like the asinine number that he got. And I'm not a fan of Blake Snell, but the fact that Blake Snell's still sitting on the sidelines, not getting what he wants, like I'm just mind boggling. Like I don't like Blake Snell. I don't think he should get his number either, but that's beside the point. Like Josh Hader getting that amount of money, I'm just like, holy crap. Like I always have the running joke, like you guys aren't out here in Arizona, but like I live in Arizona and it gets ridiculously hot out here. And so I always have the comment that closers in Major League Baseball are like car batteries in Arizona. Like you have to change them out every 3 years. Like you just have to. Like the closers in baseball are just like they have a good stretch. There's very few. There are some, Mariano Rivera, etc., like that can make it for a long time, but not throwing like Hader does. Like you look at Frankie Rodríguez, guys from the past, like that throw that hard. You look at Diaz from last year, missing the entire season. Like you cannot financially responsibly justify giving that amount of money to a closer that's going to come out there and throw as hard as he can for one inning. A guy who complains about pitching ever more than one inning. Like I don't like just his personality that I've seen over the last 2 years. I don't like either. But like giving that amount of money to a closer is
a lot of money.
Absolutely ridiculous.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think you might have commented on it, Lewis, as we were saying, like, will he beat Diaz in a contract? Oh, my God, that's my sports out there Mets fan. Crazy how Montero was a horrible starter for the Mets, but found success in Houston. To your point there with Hader is like, he has some question marks in terms of, oh yeah, I don't want to go out there. Like that is a red flag right there.
Big red flag. Yeah.
But yeah, big red flag there. But he also is a beast when he pitches. Like he is. Like, his numbers tell us he's a beast. He can get wild at moments, and he's had some spotty moments. But when you can throw Presley Montero, and I'm a big fan of Abreu, I think he'll only get better as time goes on here in a few years. Like people will really know his name in a couple of years. I think they have one of the best bullpens in the league, no doubt, and especially in terms of options. I mean, they have anything they want to throw out there, Josh. And I think this, to me, Josh Edwards, this is a response to them losing to the Rangers in that division.
Oh, absolutely.
Not the division, not the division, in the playoffs. I mean, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah. No, this is about making sure that they can finish. And if you're going to pay this guy for 5 years and $95 million, you better win at least 2 World Series, if not 3, in that 5-year stretch.
Damn.
If that's my expectation.
That is the only way you can justify spending that amount of money on a closer.
So you think the Mets are the same boat then?
I think the Mets are stupid. The Mets owner is stupid. He went out and played fantasy baseball in real life, tried to compile a team with a bunch of freaking superstars, had no morale, wasted a bunch of money, and then had to sell off his players. And now he's rebuilding his team again.
Yeah, I think it's apples to oranges with the Astros and Mets. Like the Mets just kind of threw money at stuff and hope for the best. Like the Astros have a good team before Hader and added Hader to it. The Mets had no track record, no good team, no nothing when they just threw all this money around.
They had the polar bear.
They had Alonso, and now like you can put Lindor in that category too, I guess. Yeah. But like there's no way. Like the yes, they have some holes, but not like glaring. Like not.
I kind of disagree with you guys in the sense of I think the Astros are automatically a playoff team. Like I think that's how they're thinking in their head. And they can shorten the game down in the playoffs than more teams can. I'd say if they're healthy, like that, Presley is really good. Like Presley is really good. So the fact you have him as like a guy who can go 8 innings or go 2 innings there in a game in a playoffs, that's where I think it is. To Josh's point, though, the money and the long term, Edwards justifies what this contract does because that's insane. $95 million.
How many times is he going to take the mound during the regular season? 60.
If they're lucky, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So you think about how much you're paying him per inning to work.
Okay.
This is insane.
So can this go to my next point? Does high price closers work out? And
I haven't seen one work out yet.
I would say, okay, the only one that I Francisco Cordero, I don't know if that's a name that rings a bell, but he was a closer. The Reds signed him. That actually worked out for the Reds in that little period of time. He went from the Rangers to the Reds. That worked out. That's a rare one. But most of them
How many World Series did the Reds win when they had him?
Not, but
so it didn't work out.
Mark Melancon didn't win, but he didn't get $195 million either. Mark Melancon, obviously with your Giants, didn't get the job done there after you guys signed him from the Braves. They don't get it done. No. Though Chapman to the Yankees 2016, he doesn't get it done either over there. So I don't think most closers do get it done. I will say they can go to teams that have good years like Cordero, but they won't necessarily get –
or like Chapman, like you mentioned.
Yeah, but they won't get a World Series in it. So it's very interesting to me that these guys get high-priced deals, Josh, to your point, that they don't – if that's the – because to the closer position, $100 million is like you're one of the best players on the team. You need to get us a Cy Young MVP. So if the Astros don't win that this year, and like Susie can be excited about it, but like – at the end of the day, a closer, it's like 9 pitches. 9 pitches, your season can be a bust. So, I mean,
two pitches, your season could be a bust.
Yeah. And so we'll see what happens with that with Hader going forward. I thought that we had to definitely touch on that with Hader getting say, hold on, the closer is not responsible for a good and bad season. I completely disagree with that. I would say that I've been on teams where I'm like, my closer blows, and my team would be a lot better, and they'd have a lot more confidence if my SOBs over there did not walk people to give them a setup to it. So, yeah. Logan, get that voice straight, you son of a gun, next week, because I disagree with that, sir. I have been – closers have lost seasons. I am serious about that. That is that.
Hey,
that
guess
is-
what? Hater has lost seasons.
Yeah, exactly. Logan, get that voice right. For right now, keep tweeting in, baby. I love you. All right, here we go. Diamond notes. We keep it moving. Paxton Chapman to the Pirates. We got him out there. Our guy, Mike McKendry, are you out there? Come on the podcast again. We want to get you out there. Paxton to the Dodgers. Hoskins to the Brewers. I kind of like that signing a little bit for them. Gallo to the Nationals. A Cuban signing to the Rodríguez to the Blue Jays. I almost said Maple Leafs. Josh, shout out there your hockey. David Robertson to the Texas. Little few signings out there. Robertson was the breaking news. We're kind of still waiting on Snell and Matt Chapman to be the big news. I guess Bellinger, if you want to throw him out there as well. Those are my diamond notes. Shout out to Peter Gammons there with the diamond notes. Any of those signings, Josh Lewis, kind of stand out to you?
I was really happy with the Hoskins signings. I think that was a great, like, Craig Counsell who, like, let's get Hoskins in here. Like, let's make a good signing. And that's funny. I like the Hoskins signing. I love the Paxton signing for the Dodgers because I'm a Giants fan. So I love that signing because he's terrible. The Gallo signing, I'm like, like what? Like why? Okay, like he's another guy that kind of, I don't know, rubs me the wrong way in terms of like red flags and whatnot. In terms
Nationals seem like a perfect fit for him though.
See, but to me, they don't. They're so young and they're so talented, and they have more young and more talented coming up.
Josh,
like,
you know this. This is what bad teams do. They sign guys that can maybe hit 40 bombs. That's what they do. They're like, oh, I can take a chance on this guy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe they're thinking like what you're saying, like, okay, we've got a lot of young talent. Let's just throw this guy in and see like what sticks. But I'm like, if I'm running the organization, I don't want Gallo anywhere near my young players. Like, I don't want him rubbing off on anybody.
Swing big.
So yeah, I don't see. Yeah, Pirates would have been perfect. That would have been fine. Like Pirates would have been good. A's would have been phenomenal. He would have been a great signing for the A's.
No, we already got enough guys like him on the team. We're going young now. We're going Vegas A's. We're going a little younger now. We're getting ready for the 2030 season. So we're getting ready for that. We're close to it, baby. We're getting close.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the Rodríguez signing for Toronto. I'm always really intrigued, probably more so than others in terms of international signings.
For sure.
So I'm a little bit intrigued to see how that worked out, and if Toronto would just sign Joey Votto, then I would be like, yeah, I'm a Toronto fan this year. Right? Yeah,
I heard the Angels are interested in Votto.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
As an Angels homer, that's kind of sad.
That's why I was like, what do you say about that, buddy?
Edwards, let me get your thoughts here on the Central Division with these two. Chapman to the Pirates, Hoskins to the Brewers. Your thoughts on any of those signings? Is Hoskins? I mean, he has potential as a first baseman. He got a decent deal, 2 years, $38 million. So it's not like they're expecting to bat 210. So what do you expect with those two signings in the NL Central? Does that have any effect in your mind?
So Rhys Hopkins to Milwaukee does nothing for me because they haven't done anything else. That's not enough to move the barometer at all, in my opinion.
They haven't traded Burns at least.
Yeah, I mean, but it doesn't matter. That team is nothing right now. I don't care how good of a manager Craig Counsell is. His first year, I hope the organization has set a very low bar for his first year, so he can kind of see where he's at, evaluate, and then make the changes he needs to make. I don't need to see Milwaukee good for a few years anyways. It wouldn't bother me if they're bad. The Pirates, on the other hand, signing Chapman. I mean,
he was on your Royals last year. He was on your Royals, right? He was on there.
Yeah, he was over there, and then he went somewhere else and didn't do anything. And because he hasn't done it in years. I don't know. I think it's a legacy signing.
Do you think, like, when you see Hoskins and you see Chapman, I guess for me as a division, I'd say if I was you, I'd think, okay, Hoskins could be the one that could make some noise in this division that turns it for the Brewers a little bit. You don't look at it like that with any of these guys, man.
No, the Brewers need another piece for me to even be worried about.
I got you.
I'm more worried about Cincinnati.
That's fair.
Because Cincinnati to me is a little scary. Pittsburgh is a little scary to me because they got some youth. If they can stay healthy, Pittsburgh has the basis of a good team. They go out and get another starting pitcher that's worth anything, and they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Big on the Dodgers.
I'll get it. No, he's on there.
No deferments on the Paxton deal.
My guy CP out there, what's up? Out there in New York, always appreciate you tuning in, my friend. That's my sports. Got Logan tuning in. You guys can do good stuff out there. Mets baseball, they cover it. I've never been more into the Mets. CP, you got me into Mets talk. So I'm into your guys's in the minor league system. Who knew Daren Breyer would be involved in the Mets minor league system? But always appreciate the guys that follow us here on Seventh Inning Stretch. Always got to watch their shows. That's how we do it. We show a lot of love here on the show. We want to get that done. We're talking signings here real quick. Still waiting on Snell and Chapman. I don't put Bellinger in that mix, but we'll whatever. He had a good year, so we'll put him there with that as well. We're still waiting on those guys. All right, real quick here as we kind of get close to my MLB trivia here, right close to the end of the show here. MLB's most disappointing teams this offseason. Is there a team, Josh Lewis, that you thought, man, I'd like to see a little bit more from this team? Is it the Mets? Is it my CPs? Is it just Mets? Who is it? Is there a team out there?
I originally would have said until they got Imanaga, I would have said the Cubs. They had been pretty disappointing. Yeah, I mean, shoot, even with Imanaga, I don't know, maybe they're still pretty disappointing. I would say, all right, I'll say it. The Giants were kind of disappointing, but that's nothing new. That's
come on, what are you talking?
That's not new. I love the Lee signing. I like the Robbie Ray signing because that could turn into something. I mean that he's a good pitcher if he comes back healthy. So, but I saw the meme that's been going around and it's so accurate. It makes me cry, but it's basically we have Yamamoto, and who are the other guys that they signed? Yamamoto, Shohei, and
Hernandez.
One other guy. I can't remember who they said.
Hernandez.
We have those guys at home.
Yeah.
That's what the Giants did. They got the lesser version of all those guys.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just, oh my gosh. It's just another offseason, painful offseason for Giants fans to be yeah, you guys talk a big game and go after all these big name free agents and always lose out on them. So I was shocked that they were able to get Lee.
Oh my gosh!
At least the Giants go after big name players. The Cardinals only like to go build an AARP roster. Everybody the Cardinals have signed this offseason is 34, 34, 36, 36, and 38.
Cardinals made some awesome moves for 5 years ago.
They did. Yeah. Awesome. You got it.
Yeah. Freaking ridiculous.
Lewis, you were talking about a bumper sticker thing there with the Giants. My dad's talking the other day. The guy's listening to your baseball podcast. The guy from St. Louis that doesn't show his face. He's talking about you, Josh, just like that. He goes, you made a bumper sticker. He goes, he makes a new teal Marlins uni. He's going to come soon. Yeah, I know you're in the uniforms. All right, I got that, Brandon. We got you. I will see it on there. Show it. Send it to it. He goes, yeah, that guy in St. Louis. He goes, yeah, but he goes, there's this guy. He's running for what's the guy that's running for office now? He used to play for the Dodgers, something Garvey or something like that. I guess it's some sort of affair with some lady. And now he said back in the 70s they made a bumper sticker that said, "You're not my Padre." And so he said it was famous in California. So my dad's and the fact I'm Dad, you're listening to the show. I love it. Appreciate it. We're a shout out to you there. But he's bringing me, "You're not my Padre." That's what that made me think about when you guys were kind of making fun of that there. Of the idea most disappointing thing. So, "You're not my Padre." So Steve Garvey, little shout out there to the 70s. I wish I had one of those bumper stickers if I could get it.
To Brandon's point though, Marlins have got to be up there for most disappointing offseason.
Yeah.
Josh, every signing for the first 3 months was the Marlins should get him. The Marlins should get him. Josh, they did nothing. They did nothing for you. I agree it's the Giants as well. I think the Giants. Lewis, it is. I mean, you get Hicks, you get your guy, you get your center fielder, but it's not what the fan base is asking for. And so I think that's what's disappointing is you guys, they sold out that stadium for a long time and they just haven't delivered on some of those things. I think to Edwards' point, I think the Cardinals do get a little bit too. They didn't go out big either. You get Sonny Gray and that's supposed to kind of put a Band-Aid over some of those guys that you got. So I don't know. I agree with you guys on that.
As far as disappointing, I look at it a little bit who got worse. in the offseason. Like that would be more disappointing, right? Like the whole offseason is predicated on getting your team better, right? So yeah, that's a good one too, Logan. Like but teams that have gotten worse. So obviously the Angels, the Rockies, the Marlins,
Chris Bryant, too. What are you talking?
The A's haven't gotten worse because they haven't done anything and they're already bad. So the A's don't make this list, Daren. But
they don't deserve.
They can't make the list. They're eligible.
You can't spend money and not make a list. That's part of it. You can't make a. How about the Padres though? They haven't. The Red Sox
Padres have gotten worse.
The Red Sox.
I don't think the Red Sox have gotten worse.
We talked about them though. We said we didn't understand their plan. That was our
right,
thing.
but I think
that's the biggest thing. Yeah, I'm with you. You just don't really know what they're doing.
So we can't say they got worse because we're not sure what they're doing.
It's like Giolito to me is a signing the Giants could have made though, like high risk, low reward type of deal. But like it's still like I'm like, what are they doing trading? Again, you trade Mookie Betts. I mean, for me, one of my lifetime all worst trade. It doesn't even matter at this point. You guys are just a bit of bum of all time. All right, power surge.
Seattle's I want to get a disappointment.
Oh God, Seattle. Thank you, Josh, for mentioning that. Seattle. Remember the GM? We talked about that too. Like what he say? He's like, just give us 10 years. It's like what? You made the playoffs one time in 23 years, and now you're asking us for 10 years. They haven't got it. Yeah, the Red Sox and Mets might not be in the same tier, although I understand what I think the Mets. That's like CP. I think he understands. He doesn't want the Mets to overspend on crazy guys anymore. So I get where he's coming from when he talks his Mets podcast. Like the Mets, like at this point, they went ridiculous. We've already talked about with Diaz. They went ridiculous. They can't go again ridiculous. So as a fan, you're like, it's just not going to happen. So I get where he's always coming from on that. So I think the Mets actually have a better chance this year because of that, believe it or not. They haven't gone ridiculous. So we'll see what happens there. Players, I just want to say this real quick that have power surge. I will do it. We'll get into this another segment because we're getting close to the hour mark. Your boy, that's who I have, is the biggest power surge. Your boy, Jordan Walker. I think Walker is going to go off. I think there's a chance he hits 35 bombs this year. He has a massive power surge for you guys. Josh Lewis, what do you think about Chisholm Jr.? Do you think there's a chance he could get 35 home runs? I feel like there's potential for him to have a little surge.
No, there's a reason why I traded him off of my Dynasty League team.
All right.
So I have zero faith in Jazz Chisholm. I think he's more concerned with off the field stuff than on the field stuff. Me personally. But that's just outside looking in. Obviously, I don't have any insider information on that or anything. But just as a fan, watching him and watching how he plays and his mannerisms and stuff like that, I'm like, nah, pass. I don't think that he can be the focus of that franchise. Like, I mean, you look at he was supposed to be the focus of that franchise, right? And then Luis Arias said get the fuck out of here, just whatever. And so I don't see him. I think that I think that the way he plays the game isn't going to really translate to him having a big power surge anytime soon.
Josh Edwards.
The problem is he has all the ability and God-given talent to be a power surge if he would just use it correctly and focus.
Josh, as we talk about him having a big year, I think Walker, I think he's due. I do. I think he is. And I think Chisholm, we'll see what happens with him. I have who will hit 500 career home runs next up here on the list. Stan's at 402. Trout's at 368. Machado's 313. Harper's 306. Judge is 257. Pete Alonso, 192. Those are our closest guys to that list. You got some other ones down below. Obviously, you have Soto. I don't think he'll get there. Acuna Jr., Vladimir Guerrero. Anybody you think will hit 500 on that list that might be there? Lewis, any name? Do you think Stanton gets to 500?
So I think Stanton can. It's just a matter of if he pulls a hamstring on his.
That's what I mean. I don't think he'll get there. I think he's going to be too injury prone.
He is very injury prone. I think he can. I think it's a possibility. I would not be shocked if he did. And same with Trout. I don't think Trout's as injury prone as Stanton, but I think Trout can get there based on their ages, based on if they can play longer, stuff like that. Those are my two from this list. However, I'm fascinated by the guys that are I looked up the active leaders before coming on the show, and I'm more curious about the guys that right now are down around the 38, 39, 40 area, but they're super young. So Soto, Acuna, those two guys specifically,
Acuna,
I think they can
161.
I think they can do it, based on the not just based on the pace, but based on the fact that they're both under 25.
Yeah.
Like they're so young. They're just so young. And
But
so even if they only play another 10 years, they're still only 35 and have hit God who knows how many home runs between now and then. So those guys are really fascinating. I don't think anybody else like Machado, Judge, Alonso, I don't think any of those guys are going to get there. Harper could maybe if he has a little bit of a resurgence, but I'm more fascinated by the young guys, Acuna and Soto coming up.
I'd have to disagree. I think Machado and Harper do get there. I think they do get there. I don't think they get blown out of the water, but I think Machado, Trout, and Harper all get it to 500. I don't think Stanton does. I think Judge comes up short. Alonso to me is still kind of out there. I say no.
Based on averages, if Mike Trout can get to 100 games a season, just 100, like if he can get to 100, which he has only done, I think, twice in the last 4 years. If Mike Trout can get to 100 games per season for the next however long he is, like with how young he is, like we could see him get to 6. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility for Trout by any means. No, and that's a pretty low bar. Like if you can get to 100 games and do what you've been doing your entire career, like he could get to 600 home runs. So
it's disappointing to see what he would have been at if he was healthy. That's when you see those stats are like that with it. Nemo power surge. Nemo 24 home runs last year. Yeah, we could see a little power surge. I think Alonso's the one I'm interested with. Edwards, go ahead there.
Why was Arenado not on the list? He's got 325.
I don't think he's getting the 5. I just don't see him getting the 500. You think he'll get there?
He only needs 30 a year for the next 6 years.
No, I don't see him. I see him dropping off here in a couple from 30.
I think this year will tell us what happens.
It depends. Does he come back as old Nolan, or is he now the Nolan we saw this last year?
I think we're going to see more of the old Nolan this year, and here's why. I think you're going to see consistency in the lineup. The St. Louis Cardinals are going to have one of the best offensive lineups on paper in the MLB this year. It's not going to be deniable. Top to bottom, like 1 through 7 is going to be a good lineup.
But can he do that for 5 years?
What I'm saying is,
I think him and Goldschmidt are heading down. So I think your assessment of I think you've got some fan blinders on there, buddy. I think you're hoping for the best.
You think 1 year is more predictive of what is going to happen than his entire career?
In baseball, yes.
I would agree.
I think baseball you can fall off a cliff a lot faster than any other sport.
I don't think Nolan Arenado is one of those players.
And I think he'll still be good. I think he is still a good third baseman and a serviceable third baseman. Like I would take him over any of the third basemen we've got on the Giants.
So he's more than serviceable then.
Yeah. So I mean, he's still all-star caliber, but in terms of the home run that we're trying to get to here, like I just don't see it.
That's hilarious. This has been just a really fun show just to have Lewis you on tonight too. It's just been really fun to have, and this kind of feels like old times here. We're talking baseball with it. Most disappointing teams with it. Can I get to the final part of our show here with it? I want to wrap it up. Logan Stone on there with it. MLB trivia here with it as we get to the end of 7th inning stretch. Appreciate anybody tuning in tonight on a Thursday night, getting ready for NFC AFC Championship Sunday. I know it's football season there. I know Edwards. So be sure to tune in to Talking the Gridiron, all the preview shows here on Variety Sports Network. We'll be doing with the football. I know Josh has jumped on a couple of those. Obviously, I've been on Talking the Gridiron, so be sure to turn on that if you're a football fan. But for right now, MLB trivia. I was able to stump Mr. Edwards and Mr. Stone last week or a couple weeks ago with Jared Weaver on the Angels.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That was my answer for one. So who am I is on my MLB trivia here. Hint number 1, I won a World Series my rookie year as a starting pitcher in the MLB. Anybody? It will not be from 1920, people. From 19, we'll give you from 1990 to now. We'll give you that kind of clue. It's a big guess. But if you want to take one, I have a couple more hints, and then we'll get easier as we go. But if you want to take a guess.
I already have a guess.
All right, you want to give me a guess?
I got John Lackey.
Edwards, do you want to take a guess? Does not. Let's give Edwards a little clue here with it then, too. I don't want to reveal it yet. We'll get to it. Here, Edwards here, number 2. I am a
That's
3-time world champion with Edwards there and the Cy Young with Sabathia and Beckett. We got that. There's it. I think we're pretty close. Edwards, you want to take a guess? Do you believe it's the same, or do you think it's somebody else?
Yeah, I mean that sounds like.
I think this will be the final one.
I'm gonna trust Josh.
I won 3 World Series. I won 3 World Championships with the Angels there. It is Mr. John Lackey. We knew Mr. Lewis was coming on. We had to put an Angel on there that won it. Lewis, well done. Getting it on the first clue. I always feel like that's a big clue with John Lackey winning it the rookie year. So I feel like you know it. Logan Stone, did you know it after that first one? I don't know if you would have.
He didn't know that one.
He's a little younger. He's a little younger there. So we'll just see if he would have known that
Did
one.
not win a World Series with the Cardinals. Sorry.
No, he did not. Sorry about that. He did not win it with the Cardinals. Sorry about that.
Sure didn't.
Gentlemen, that was a fun. Lewis, very nice. Nice. My first guess was Ryan until he said 1990. So that was yep, I would have got it. We had Jared Weaver at the other one. So obviously 7th inning stretch. I'll continue to give you that. My hints will be during the week. There's always a few things that might come up that will give you a little clue. Nice. Next week on the show, I got some good videos for you. I want to look back on some good commercials in Major League Baseball. So I have a few that are lined up here that we'll get on video screen as we talk about it here. Josh Lewis, you gave me a great idea during the year about going about stadiums. I'd love to have you on about doing a draft with that one of these times. That would be fun.
Absolutely.
Yes, you did get the Weaver answer. It took a few hints, though. All right, buddy. Took a few. I take credit. Took a few. So it'd be fun to do that with you. Maybe I know as you're starting to, as we talk,
big into the stadium, starting
to feel a little stronger. Hopefully, here we can get you on for maybe a few episodes here throughout the year on 7th inning stretch.
You bet.
Power through, getting ready for the baseball season as we're kind of getting through the winter months here. So, Josh Lewis, appreciate you taking some time to come on, and it was fun to discuss MLB and all the stuff with you again, my friend.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. I loved it.
Edwards, always fun, my friend. Hopefully Logan Stone's feeling better and he can not wimp out next week, right? We can hopefully get him back on.
He was intimidated because Lewis was coming on.
I think that's a fun factor. He was disappointed with the wheel. Did he spin you a big wheel, a bad wheel? Did you get? What was your team this year when Logan did it? When he did the spin?
Oh gosh, it was. Oh dang! I just completely blanked on. I was just thinking about that the other day.
I had
too.
the Rays. I remember that. I had the Rays. Did you? Edwards, you had the Dodgers.
Edwards had the Dodgers.
I had the Dodgers. Yep.
Did you have the A's? Did you have the A's, Lewis? You didn't have the A's. Probably.
No, I didn't have the A's. Crap! I'm totally blanking on who I had.
I have it written down. I just don't have it in front of me.
I have it written down here somewhere too.
Must have been an epic show. All right, we got this game.
Hey, I was trying really hard to be organized last season when we started. So I literally took notes the entire show.
You're like the guy in my school board meetings. You're the minutes guy. You're the guy that take a minute. All right, I want those in the report here next week, Josh.
Please reread. Yeah.
No, that was
the Reds.
The Reds. Yeah, the Reds. All right, so you had a little bit.
The Reds. So that was pretty fun.
Ellie did a cruise.
That was fun, guys. Good show tonight. 7th inning stretch. Hopefully, we'll be back on next week. Maybe we'll eventually, Edward, I feel like we said this for 2 months. Snell will get signed. Maybe one of these times they'll get signed and we'll do a podcast and talk about it with it. But listen, we'll give this to you every week during Variety Sports. Be sure to check out all the football stuff this week. There's going to be a lot of stuff this weekend here on Variety Sports Network. So be sure to check that out. But we appreciate all our baseball fans. We've been having great views with that. Appreciate all that during the off season. Like I said, baseball is 365 for me. So it's always fun to be able to talk it. I know Josh Edwards feels the same way. Josh Lewis, I know, feels the same way as our guest here. So for Josh Edwards, my co-host, for our guest, Josh Lewis, I'm Daren Breyer. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.